Hi everybody and welcome back to episode 5 of my tutorial series for Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. I'm Icon and we're now sitting at the entrance of the Lair of the Beasts. That's going to be the central topic of today's episode, and before I start, I want to mention here that this is a part of the game that's not easy for practically anybody. You need to take this branch of the dungeon seriously or it will outright slaughter you. So no matter how easy things were before you hit this place, it won't stay easy here. There are enemies in this branch that are nasty for pretty much everybody. So we have to take that with caution. And in this episode, I'm going to talk a lot about the enemies in particular, and we're going to do our best to clear out this place. The most important part here is to know that you don't have to take every fight. As I mention quite often, running away is quite okay, and sometimes it's also worth leaving the lair of the beasts entirely and going clear some 1 or 2 levels of the dungeon again before getting back there. Sometimes it's really worth swapping and juggling around instead of blowing it up yourself. So let's get started here with the Komodo dragon. The Komodo dragon is hitting just with a mere amount of 34 damage, so they are really hard hitters. And with 44 HP, they also come as a quite tanky package. Luckily, my character deals a lot of damage on his own, so they aren't as problematic as they are for several other characters. If you are a squishy character, Komodo dragons have to be handled really cautiously, because they can blow up people quite easily, and they are normally fast, and even worse, in water, they are extremely quickly. So if you have water in your kiting way, the Komodo will close up to you, and that can be really bad. And here I found a Scroll of Fear, which is extremely worth mentioning, simply because Fear Scrolls are super good in the Lair of the Beasts, because like I mentioned at the beginning of the last or at the end of the last episode, this dungeon branch includes animals exclusively. There are no humanoids per se. Sometimes you have a odd horde spawning here and there and breaking this law occasionally, but not regularly. So that means fear is a very powerful mechanism to shoo away hordes of enemies, because animals are very susceptible to that. But now let's manage that cane toad. They are the most nasty things, in my opinion, down here. They have a lot of HP. They have a really insanely powerful attack, 26 damage, and they will poison you. And to add insult to injury, they are also fast, and yeah, they are really nasty buggers. I think my dude here is able to slaughter them okay. So yeah, you have to check out how well your character handles the enemies here that I mentioned. And if it goes well, you can proceed accordingly, but really take everything new as a test for you. So we found a Ring of Willpower here. Oh, it's the second one already. Silly me. And I found a Amulet of Regeneration. Oh my god, I totally forgot these. So let's use capital P to wear that Ring of Willpower and the Amulet of Regeneration. The Amulet of Regeneration, pressing percent now, will increase the HP regenerated per turn as soon as I'm fully healed. You see, it was 0.27 before, and now it's 1.07 after. Pretty nifty stuff. And the Ring of Willpower basically just increases this stat here, which is your magical resistance against confusions and other nasty things. Pretty good to have that. So we're going to toss away that second Ring of Willpower. And here's another thing. You might have noticed that this Wand of Charming is now grayed out. This is because Okawaru is the god of honorable combat. And when you're worshipping Okawaru, you can't have any allies, because that would be not honorable. So I can't use the Wand of Charming anymore because, you know, it would create an ally, and that would be against the rules. So we're smacking the polar bear. I mentioned bears in the episode before, but I'll just recover here that they go into Berserk Rage when they go low HP. The polar bear is a stronger version compared to a black bear, and yeah, there's a couple of bears in the game. So another cane toad. I monitor them quite carefully because I mistrust my success against these. I took 16 points of damage from that dude. And a moment ago, my piety reached the 3rd pip here, and I got a message that I will now occasionally be granted ammunition by Okawaru. Okawaru's gifts will always be biased around your skills, so due to the fact that I have learned throwing, Okawaru will now try to gift me throwing weapons. If you have a bias towards bows and such, you get the idea. And here's our first Hydra. Hydras are pretty much a noob trap. So here goes how the Hydra works. Each Hydra head has a singular attack for 18 damage. So this thing attacks for 5 times 18 damage per turn. Nasty enough. The really nasty thing about Hydras, though, is when you hit them with a slicing weapon, axes, swords, long blades in particular, not short blades. Short blades are piercing. And yeah, then if you attack them with these weapons, they will just grow another head, and they will gain a portion of HP for every head. And the TLDR behind that, don't try to kill Hydras with bladed weapons ever. It will not work. Not! Exclamation mark. They will grow heads until they eventually will have 27 heads, and well, that will be the point where they will stop growing heads, but this will also be the point where I highly doubt that you will survive melee anymore. Now, how to deal with those? Either you use a blunt weapon like I do here, or preferably or you pelt them with ranged attacks. So in my situation here, I don't really have too many good options. I could use the Acid Wand or the Atropa Darts, but the Atropa Darts are nowadays not really what they used to be. So we're going to zap a wand of acid at this thing. Quiver it, press F, and now let's get into melee. Yeah, I'm bashing that thing down. Usually you shouldn't be that easily able to deal with them, and to get a fight with a Hydra done properly or reliably, I should rather say, rack up ranged options. It's not a shame to toss lots and lots of acid wands on these, or fire ranged weapons at these like crazy. Try to damage them from afar as much as possible. Here, a plate armor of fire resistance, that's exactly what I'd like to swap my scale mail for, because we just gained 3 points of AC, and my armor rating is at 11.5, so I'm pretty confident that I will handle the encumbrance accordingly. Now, let's start being sassy and auto-explore a little bit here. I'm only doing this because I have already explored the majority of that level here. Okay, so now I have a scroll of ancient armor here, so I'm going to use that on my plate armor, because I have that feeling as if this plate armor would be my buddy for a while now. In the character review here, I like what I see here, a balanced resistance grid. What I'd like to have is resistance against electricity too. Extra pips on fire and cold wouldn't hurt, but I prefer a balance rather than 2 pips of cold and no fire resistance whatsoever. So I got shafted one more time. I mentioned it before in the other episode when that happened, so we are now no longer in the dungeon. I was shafted in the dungeon once, and now I'm at the lair, so it can happen one more time. It only happens once per character lifetime though. So we're now getting tossed to lair level 5, and like I said, it never ever grows easy. And that's another wonderful example for that. A shaft trap can easily mess up your life a lot, so we're going to explore that now very, very carefully and look for a staircase up. The good news about that, I'm not entirely incapable of clearing out this floor right now. With that gear and my experience level, I would be most likely able to tackle everything on Lair 4, but it's always better to descend in a chronological order. So here's Merfolk Siren. Remember when I said no humanoids? This is one of the things that can break this rule. That's an entrance to a side branch where I will find one of the runes I need to win the game. So Merfolk Sirens are really annoying buggers. They got that Siren Song spell, and when they activate that, you can't move away from them anymore, only towards them. So I will try and run away now as quick as I can, and around this corner, I'll be pressing 5 and waiting for them. Merfolk Sirens have not much power beyond that. I mean, 19 damage per attack is already, sounds like a lot, but, you know, we are in the mid-game now, and damage numbers between 15 and 25 are pretty standard nowadays. So we're going to get close to that and start whacking. And here I'm mesmerized. You see that gray area around me? I can't walk away from the siren anymore. In this scenario, this wasn't too dangerous yet, but being pinned down like that in a very uncomfortable situation can really mess up your life. So here we have the staircase to the shoals. This is a trans-dimensional portal, I guess, to a nice and pleasant shoreline landscape populated by lots and lots and lots of merfolk. It's a really nasty place, and we'll have to clear it. But now we're just going to get upstairs and try to get back on our original level. Here's another ring of willpower. I'm dropping that thing here now, and we're going to continue there. I used capital D for dropping that. And here's a couple of electric eels. I hate those. Electric eels live in the water and spit out electrical bolts at you. And you can't really do much against that except for staying outside their vision range and whacking them when they get too close. Here we go. I didn't want to use any ranged weapon against these because I don't have anything I want to use right now. But I also noticed that it's about time to increase throwing more. So I'm now turning off armor a while, because I figure that my armor skill right now is powerful enough. I don't really need it that much. So we're going to go for a little bit of throwing experience here, so I get another ranged option, because I only have 7 charges of Acid Wand, and then I'm out of options in ranged combat, and that is not good, ever. You should always have some sort of ranged option in this game, otherwise it will be hard. Wolves are now among the most harmless things. If you are able to tackle a herd of yak, you're most likely going to be able to tackle a wolf pack. Wolves' biggest threat lies in their numbers and their speed. They can close up to you really quickly, and they can surround you quite quickly as well, but beyond that, they don't have too much power. And like I said, since yaks aren't any problem anymore, I'm not fearing these either. The Basilisk, though, that's another piece of work, though. So the Basilisks can petrify you. That's an effect when they have activated, you get a warning because you're slowly stiffening, and then you'll be petrified for a period of time. During that period of time, you can't act whatsoever, but you'll also have a highly increased armor class. The gist of it, as long as there's only the Basilisk in front of you, petrification ain't that horrible because the Basilisk is not really able to kill you. But if you're getting petrified while there's an army of enemies whacking at you while they're surrounding you, it can be pretty much a death sentence. If you happen to have a potion of cancellation, I don't happen to have one, let's ID something. Potions of cancellation cancel out any magical effect that's happening on you right now. And yeah, well, being petrified happens to be a magical effect that you can't cancel. That's the only thing that really works against that as far as I know. But yeah, the best way to work against these dudes, in my experience, is to have a certain willpower. If your willpower is high enough, they can't even petrify you at all. So Okawaru, by the way, just gifted me some ammunition before, and it was more Atropa darts. Well, not too cool. But now he will also give me equipment while I gain piety. By the way, pressing A now reveals that we not only have the heroism skill, but also finesse. But the failure chance here is a little bit high, and I don't want to use that. So we'll just keep training invocations until it's usable. The heroism skill just will bluntly raise all the skills on this side. It's really worth using it when you're facing some really dire fight, because every point of fighting and armor really does increase your average performance. So another unlabeled scroll. It's a scroll of brand weapon. So brand weapon, you can use that to add a brand on a weapon. So this is now a longsword of phrasing. So technically, this would be now starting to be better as soon as I have enchanted it to +9, like my mace, because the base damage is higher. The mace has only a base damage of 8. This has a base damage of 10. But, well, I don't think that I will find that many scrolls of enchant weapon in that short period of time. So most likely we're going to stick with that mace for quite some time longer. I strongly assume that there might be someday soon a bigger cousin of the maces coming along my way with a decent brand and a decent enchantment. Like something like a +4 Morning Star of Flaming would cross my way. That would be the first item where I would be considering swapping that mace. But until then, we're going to stick with this mace because this mace is good for me. So we're clearing out this floor now more and more confident, because there's really not much that I'm worrying about, except for that Hydra down the road, huh? So we're going to step back, and there's a Rhyme Drake. That little blue dragon thingy was a Rhyme Drake. They spit ice at you, and that slows you, but seriously, that's not really that much worth mentioning. But this one, this is a piece of bad news. Dream Sheep. They can put everybody that sees them to sleep, and the worst thing about that, you can't really resist that. It's a here, the Dream Sharks sheep shake their wool and sparkle. You feel drowsy. This is an irresistible effect. When they do that, you have to accept that you will be put to sleep for a moment. For a heavily armored guy like this, it won't be of too much of an issue to be put asleep for one turn and get woken up after a whack. But if you are a low HP character, this can really ruin your day. And the more Dream Sheep there are, the higher the chance that you get this sleep thing. So, like I said before, the Lair has a very, very nasty composition of enemies that make life miserable for everybody. The Torpor Snail, for example, is another good thing. It can't do really much except for slowing you while it's in your vision range. Seriously, while there's a Torpor Snail in your vision range, you are slowed and you can't change that, period, until it's dead. Hello there, Naga. So the Naga are humanoids, and they are, again, breaking our rule. When something breaks a rule of a biome, usually that means that there is a lair or a dungeon entrance in the vicinity. Naga are pretty nasty people. Decent HP, wield pretty nasty weapons. They come with a large variety of weapons, and they all can spit poison. And Naga come also with a large variety of jobs that they can do, like character classes. Here, this is also the entrance to the Snake Pit. As you might already probably as you might have already guessed, that's what I wanted to say. This is yet another optional or rune branch, like the Shoals. So this will be a side branch of the dungeon where we're going to be facing Naga as a majority of enemies. So that's what we're going to face here. So the Komodo dragon here triggered a reward from Okawaru, a Scimitar of Holy Wrath. This is pretty good. I mean, a Scimitar is among the most powerful single-handed one-handed blade weapons, and Holy Wrath is particularly deadly against unholy enemies. I'm going to keep that and toss away the Sword of Freezing. I highly doubt that I will be using this one, but since I got still 20 more inventory slots left, I won't be minding to give it a whirl. So I'm looking for wands now. Control F does the trick. And I got 840 gold pieces. So I'm going to grab myself that wand of digging out of the dungeon here. So I went to Control F, wand, and then I just selected the one I wanted to have by clicking that or pushing that respective letter, and then you automatically move there. It's an awesome feature. So I'm buying a wand of digging. Why am I so interested in a wand of digging, you might ask yourself? Because they are awesome, that's the answer. Now, capital G, and now you see this movement menu has expanded quite by some points here. So we can now enter the lair, the temple, the orcish mines, the snake pit, and the shoals. We're going to head back into the lair level 3 because we weren't finished there yet. So the wand of digging does one thing. It allows you to dig a tunnel into terrain. This is really, really good because at times, like this fight here, for example, I'm getting a little bit surrounded. Now I am totally capable of taking down a pack of yak that's surrounding me with little to no issues whatsoever. But this won't be like that forever. And the capability of digging a tunnel into a direction gives you also the ability to limit the amount of enemies that can come your way. So if you'd be firing a wand of digging into this direction, you would be creating a diagonal tunnel where there's only one enemy capable of facing you. Long-term players of Dungeon Crawl consider this strategy a kill hole. This means that you're creating yourself a hole where you kill stuff. This is a very valid strategy to use when you're in really dangerous areas, and I can only recommend it. So, Layer 4, remember we got shafted here a moment ago, but let's take that place very seriously. Like I mentioned several times before, this place is dangerous, and I blew up a lot of my characters down here for not taking it serious enough. The deeper you go now into the game, the more true this gets. That it's growing more and more dangerous to be uncautious. Here's a black mamba, by the way. Remember what I said about water moccasins being the bigger cousins of the adders? The black mamba is the bigger cousin of the adder on steroids. They are super fast, they are highly evasive, and they deal a lot of damage. Luckily, my dude is so overpowered that he doesn't care, because I basically hit them every time I attack them due to the extremely high enchantment level on my weapon. But black mambas are among the most deadly denizens of the lair, and you should take them very seriously when you face them for the first time, and check out how you handle them. It's not a shame to use wands at black mambas or other limited items, because seriously, they are really that dangerous, especially because they are fast. Yet again, poisonous enemies that are fast are really dangerous at all times, because, you know, I hate everything that shuts down my ability to run away. So I found a Amulet of Guardian Spirit. The Amulet of Guardian Spirit will use my magic points as a shield while I wear it. This is a pretty good alternative to a regeneration amulet. If you don't have a regeneration amulet, or in general for fighters, a Guardian Spirit amulet is great, because I'm not utilizing my magic points at all. So using them as a extra HP shield is something I love doing, but in this scenario, I prefer the regeneration over the Guardian Spirit amulet. That's mainly because my character has an intelligence of 5. That means the amount of MP he has will always be horrible. Therefore, regeneration weighs more, in my opinion. So, I also noticed that I happen to have a stockpile of 5 potions of heal wounds at this point. So, here's one thing though. Potion of Heal Wounds heals you around 20 to 30 HP, roughly. The problem here is, you see my HP are now at 115. While we're clearing out this area, we're more and more leaving the horizon of usefulness of the Heal Wound Potion. So while the Heal Wound Potion never grows useless, it's not the same lifesaver it was once in dungeon level 3 or 4, for example, when I only had 40 HP. 20 to 30 HP weigh a lot more then, so you get the idea. I just want to mention that because I died several times relying too hard on the healing power of my Heal Wounds potions, so. Basilisks come down the way, I'm just smacking it. So there's a Wraith. A Wraith is also something that should make you pay attention. I'm pretty sure this is a precursor of a unique enemy. That's Josephine. Josephine is a necromancer unique enemy that always comes with a pack of wraiths. So Josephine is wielding a fireball spell that deals draining damage, and she's all about draining damage and destroying and commanding undead. But, you know, the biggest threat of Josephine lies in the moment when she can surround you with her undead minions, and the wraiths slow you, and then you get pelted with those life-draining fireballs. Can be really, really nasty. So Okawaru gained me a gift, and that's javelins. Javelins are basically, in my opinion, among the most supreme throwing weapons available. They are pretty heavy, good base damage, and the most important thing about them is they work like a line shot. So you fling them down a hallway, and while passing through several enemies, they will also damage several enemies at once. Not every ranged weapon can do that. So this is really good, and I'm really happy that Okawaru granted me that. So this is also a reason why I recommend Okawaru as a good beginner god, because you will regularly be gifted with stuff that's really helpful for you. And also, I didn't use it yet, but I'll use it now, because an 8-headed Hydra is really nasty. Okawaru also grants you really useful skills, so let's turn on the heroism. Check out my skills now. 14 to 12, and now let's activate heroism, and now it's all a lot higher. That means I am performing a lot better. My shield and EV is better because I have now a dodging skill of 5, and I'm also going to activate finesse. That will make my attacks faster. So now I'll get to attack the Hydra way more often, and that's an easy win. The combination of heroism and finesse lets you tackle fights that are way beyond your power quite often. And the cool thing about that is Okawaru only needs you to pay some magic points and some piety, but you will regain the piety while killing stuff. It's only important to know that the lower in the table these skills are, the more piety they cost. So try to avoid spamming finesse for no reason whatsoever. Use it for those really heavy fights, because it's costly. Heroism, though, is a no-brainer. If you're not as powerful as I am here right now, because this dude is really lucky with that weapon, spam heroism like crazy. Use it everywhere. It's really low-cost skill with a lot of reward. Well, let's get into that Hell Rat here real quickly. Hell Rats are life-draining rats, and that's pretty annoying. For this character, we will splat them quite quickly, but they are quite hard to kill if you aren't as proficient in melee like this dude, and life draining is pretty nasty. Here's the Blink Frog, 20 damage per blow, and they blink around like crazy, and have a pretty high evasion rating. Blink Frogs are particularly nasty for squishy characters, because they start swarming you and deal a surprisingly high amount of damage. So we're not going to take them lightly. Here's another branch, the Slime Pits, featuring a special god, Jiva. the god of slimes. You can worship him and be a slime worshipper. So the slime pits are among the most deadly areas in the dungeon. They are like 90% of the times when you finish the game with 3 runes, 3 runes is the minimum, you won't be gathering the rune out of the slime pits. It's so dangerous. So here we have another ghost, Gargoyle the Fighter. By the way, these ghosts are all player remains, so whenever you die, your ghost can be met here at some point. So this dude here is wielding a weapon of venom, and as a gargoyle, he's a gnoll. Gargoyle the gnoll. He has a pretty high AC and a lot of HP, so we're not going to take that fight here. Although it would be quite interesting because there's the Amulet of Air. Inaccuracy makes your ranged attacks and your attacks miss more often, but it's a pretty powerful amulet nevertheless, because it makes you resistant against electricity and repel missiles, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. But it's not worth the trouble here. Here we have kind of a little bit of a volcanic island, and there's Linworms on the other side. So we can't really get over there without helping hands. So remember those potions of flight? We're going to use them here, but the Linworms on the other side are pretty nasty. So we're first going to turn on the heroism and then sip in the potion of flight to get over there, because the Linworms will attack me while I'm flying over to this place. Alright, I safely landed. And this is a very, very dangerous thing, and I wouldn't have taken this fight that easily if my character wouldn't have been that strong. Linworms are basically one small step below a fully fledged dragon. They have fire breath, and they have around 50 HP, so pretty dangerous, but I got fire resistance, so I'm pretty comfy. I'll sip in a potion of Berserk Rage here in that scenario. I'll be using this resource for once, because I know that on this island there's only this bunch of Linworms, and that's it. So Berserk Rage wears off. I see here I'm now slowed, and I'm just going to wait it out now. And the treasures are mine. There's Silver Javelins. Silver Javelins are the same like normal javelins, but they will deal extra damage to enemies that are vulnerable to silver. So what do we have here? A piece of Zom's chessboard. I have no clue what that is. I'm going to check that out in between the episodes and explain it to you. That's a new item. We're going to check it out next time. A +4 anti-magic Morning Star. Remember when I was talking about a Morning Star? Well, Morning Stars have a base damage rating of 13. Compared to the Mace's 8, that's a pretty big one. But anti-magic, well, I'm going to pick it up and keep it, because this is actually quite nifty. We can use this weapon pretty good against powerful spellcasters, simply because they will lose their magic points when they get struck by that thing. Now these gloves here, regeneration, but strength -5 and intelligence 8. Hell no, won't take that. Another thing worth mentioning here, there's a hatch in the floor. I haven't talked about hatches yet whatsoever. I somehow slipped that topic. Hatches are one-way staircases, so in case you're stuck here, you could as well free yourself with that. But I have still a potion of flight left, so we can safely explore the rest of that level. So that's that. That's how you sometimes get to use those potions of flight totally usefully. Alright, my friends, so this is the end of this episode. The next level will be Lair level 6, and that's the finale of the Lair. And it's totally cool that we're going to designate an entire episode to that, because this will be more challenging than everything we've faced so far here. There will be a special area in the Lair 6 that will be working similar like that Linworm Island here, but it will be much bigger and will have a theme of certain enemies that will be pretty dangerous. Can't wait to get there. So drop your comments down below, leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course, consider subscribing. I'd be delighted if you would also hit that notification bell to not miss any of my daily content. See you guys next time. Bye bye.